two lineups that we have from Twitter and kind of go through those real quick.
Okay.
Is it too early to buy in on St. Louis players? I say no because my 50-50 was Lowen. I just picked Klaus as a rate off the premium line at 8.3. I don't think it's too early. I think this would be a good week to experiment, play around with it. Last week was probably too early because we hadn't seen the product on the field. Now we've seen it against, an Austin team that had a back line, injury, brought in a guy that just had himself a shocker of a game. But last week was too early. Now I think it's time to maybe experiment with a couple of those guys.
Yeah, and you also just saw what their roles were too, right? I think especially I think the one that stands out to me the most was your 50-50 and Edouard Lewin, right? I mean, he was all your corner kick taker, free kick taker. He was involved in a lot of their creative situations, and he also is just everywhere in the field. He had a lot of bonus points, so he's not just attacking, right? You can get some bonus points from his defending as well.
Yeah.
He's just kind of everywhere on the field. So, and he's coming in at $7 million. So there's like a lot of
$7
guys.
million, man.
Like how many other primary corner kick takers are coming in that cheaply, right? There's not many. There's like Ashley Westwood for Charlotte is the one that stands out to me off the top. Is that 7.6? With most creative players that are taking the free kicks and corner kicks and set pieces and things are probably you're looking at 8, 9, 10 mil for those kind of players. So they have value in terms of just the fact that some of them are cheap. I would be a little hesitant about their defenders, but a couple pieces are looking like they're legit. Lowen.
I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about Lowen, the guy that we're talking about from Am I saying his name correctly? How do you say his name?
I think it's Lewin, because it's like that. You got the umlaut over the O. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Edward Lewin. So I think there's an interesting discussion to be had between Edward Lewin and Martin Ojeda. Martin Ojeda's value dropped this past week from 7.5 or 6.5 to 6.4. He's playing for an Orlando team that has weapons on the left, right, center, and up top. And St. Louis doesn't have that. They have Klaus up top and Lewin underneath. And outside of that, they have a bunch of role players playing that high pressing system. Yeah. So at this point, I think Lewin's probably the most bang for your buck at guys that are $7 million or lower.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, let's keep it moving. Will Gosdog prove to be captain worthy again this week? Simply put, I'll say yes.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, he put up 20 points is absurd. I mean, until they stop scoring goals, which, I mean, they just continued right where they left off. I did think they might have had a little bit of a regression just because of how record-setting their season was last year. But, I mean, until they stop scoring, and especially, and it's also like he's their penalty taker, and they score a ton of, they get a lot of penalties, man. I mean, he had 10 penalties last year. He's already got 2 this year. So, I mean,
let's not talk about penalties right now, Brian.
Yeah,
let's not talk about that. Okay?
We were supposed to breeze through the guys. We were just supposed to say yes.
Yeah, sorry. My feelings are hurt. Okay. Will Jordan Morris continue to score goals, or will he cool off like normal?
Oof. I mean, I think it really depends on whether or not Seattle's for real, right? I mean, and I think I would lean towards they look very for real, which is to be. I would say is to be expected. From this team. And then it doesn't matter how big of a piece he is. They also just have so many weapons. So it's sort of like how you were talking about Martin Ojeda. He's a piece of a multi-pronged attack in Orlando City. Jordan Morris is the same kind of situation for Seattle. They just have many, many attacking options, and not just their starting lineup. They've got guys they can rotate in off the bench and from their academy and such, and they just have a lot of pieces. So it's just whether or not he's the guy putting in the goals week to week. Might be not so likely, right? But I mean, if he can get a piece of that pie, I feel like there's a decent pie to be had.
Yeah, I think the back end of that question is a little weighted. Cool off like normal is a little tough on Jordan Morris. He sustained a number of ACL tears, and bouncing back the year after that is tough. But just looking at his numbers, 2016 he had 12 goals. 2018 was out with injury. 2019 came back, 10 goals, 7 assists. 2020, 10 goals, 8 assists. So back-to-back years, he had 20 goals and 15 assists combined. Tore his ACL 2021, returned in 2022, 7 goals, 4 assists. That's a pretty, average year, and he's already got 2 goals this season. Colorado also didn't look great. I think Jordan
Mhm.
Morris is kind of a one-trick pony as well. He's just very fast. He's going to beat you with pace,
Yep.
try to kind of get past you on the shoulder, and then duck inside and cut in on his right foot. He's not the best finisher either, but he
Yeah.
had a couple loose balls at the 6 that he finished. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. Depending on the matchup, I think Jordan Morris is an okay play.
Yeah.
I don't think he's too expensive. So I don't know. You can streamline him and just see what's what.
Yeah.
And my LOL question of the week from my good buddy Dakota Rock, who's actually sent us all these questions. But does DC have the best matchup of the week? Not the best matchup, Brian, but I think it's interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a few teams that really stick out to me already from week one, from what we talked about in preseason, and then week one of just they look like they're going to have kind of chaotic matchups with lots of goals week to week. DC United is one of those teams. Toronto's one of those teams. San Jose is one of those teams. Looks like Atlanta might be one of those teams. So DC is one of those teams that is going to probably have a lot of goals in a lot of their games. And I'm all about that for fantasy. So if Columbus has got that matchup this week against a team that's leaking goals, and they're also geared towards trying to score some more with Nancy again, like we talked about earlier, as their head coach, I'm all about that matchup. Would I say it's the best of the week? I would lean probably more towards that Atlanta Toronto matchup, just in terms of how poor Toronto's defense looked in week one, and the fact that it's also in Atlanta. But I definitely think the Columbus DC matchup is a strong one for sure, and definitely keeping an eye on for fantasy purposes.
Yep. All right, so I guess let's take a look at these 2 lineups that we have here on
Yeah.
Twitter. If you have it pulled up right now, I guess we could
Yep.
start with the 18 talk. He
Yeah.
said, "My take is that Agata and Abair are most undervalued strikers of the week. Both clinical finishers that will have chances. Abair will build off his last performance, and Agata just missed a few chances against Portland. He normally puts it in.
Yeah.
Agata's at
His
7
last
point.
chance was, I mean, God, that last chance he had was a free header on
Yeah,
that corner.
yep. Yeah, Agata's at 7.7. Abair's at 7.5. I mean, are there other strikers at that value out there? You talked about Sanusi, right, for CF Montreal.
Yep. At 5.5, which is
And
significantly
that
cheaper, but
could help you. That saves you what, 2 mil. You could buy up Nagby, that's on your lineup, or Hawk from New
yep.
York City FC. You could buy up those 2 players as well. So if you look to go even more value at striker, you can buy up in the midfield.
Yep. Yeah, I think my one concern with 2 value strikers is that you're not going super cheap with one of them, and then yeah, I mean it seems like it's hurting the midfield a little bit there in
Yeah.
terms of just uh, the other options like you said. I mean, just having is like Agata and Ebert going to benefit you enough to where it's worth having like Hawk and Nagby in your lineup compared to a Nicholas Ladero. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because I think for another 1.5 mil for Nagby, you can move that up to a Nicholas Ladero level player at 8.
Yep.
And those 8 to 9, like 8 to 8.5 midfielders, look, just there's a lot of them that are like looking really good, and I feel like a bunch of them are going to become priced out because they're going to just keep climbing in value, and it's going to be hard to maintain them if you don't start to jump on some of them now.
Yeah. And I think if you wanted to spend zero point 0.1 mil more, if you can free that up for a striker, Mikel Ua for the Philadelphia Union, I think he's going to have a huge year. He's only 7.8. He plays on a much better team than Sporting Kansas City. He's going to get counterattacking chances all day long. So if you can spare 0.1 mil extra, I would go Mikel Ua. But that's just kind of
Oh
where we're
yeah,
at.
good
That's
call,
just
good call.
that's kind of where we're at there. I guess we can go ahead to the. Well, here's another
Oh,
one.
he said Rui Diaz is now available. Forget it. He actually had that in
We'll scrap everything we just said then, Brian.
there.
Here's another one. I'm choosing between Cisneros and Rusnak, or find a goalkeeper under 6 mil, so I can shove in Rusnak alongside Cisneros. I'm not sure if I follow this one, Brian.
Wait, so you're looking at the Gracie Lynn, that Vulcan?
El Progunton.
Oh, I'm choosing between Cisneros and Rusnak or Brandon goalkeeper under season.
Did Cisneros even play for Atlanta that last week?
No, that's what I was confused when that question came in. Cisneros,
Is he even there? He's not
no,
even there.
he's in Liga MX.
Okay, yeah.
That's what
So
I
this
thought.
is
I
this
thought
is
I
an
thought
easy
they were
one.
trolling. I thought they were trolling me or trolling us on that.
Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe if I don't know. Start Rusnak and let's just keep it moving.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, over to the other lineup. What would you suggest I do with this team? Finish fifth in my head-to-head league and manage to barely get 3 points. Okay, my team value is 100.7 mil. Suggestions on how to improve. Brian, you got anything for him?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple other options in the defense that I think you could look to upgrade. Miazga on the road might be a little bit of a tough play this week. Although Cincinnati's defense has looked better both towards the end of last season and to start this year, I think, than they were last year when they were giving up 3-4 goals a game. But I think there's probably some better value out there defensively. Also, same with Atlanta. I feel like Atlanta is primed in this next game to potentially give up some goals against Toronto, and I'm just questioning. I'm questioning a lot of the stability in Atlanta until outside of their attack. I like that midfield a lot. I'm actually pretty high on. I know I'm a biased as a Charlotte fan, but I'm pretty high on what I saw from Ashley Westwood. He had 4 key passes. He had 3 different bonus points. Didn't get an assist or any other points like that, so his point total didn't stand out. He did have 5 from 0 assist, 5 points from no assists, no goals, anything like that. He just racked up some bonus points, and he was 1 cross and 1 clearance away from 2 more bonus points. So he could have had a 7-point game with no assists, no goals. So I definitely think
In a loss too. In a loss. That would have been impressive.
When their attackers weren't doing anything. So
Right.
I can't imagine that's going to be the standard moving forward. So I can totally see his value continuing to rise. And at 7.6, that gives you. You got Ladero, Driussi, and Mukhtar as your other starters. So I think that midfield looks really solid. And Niasgoda, Portland's attack did not. We were talking about that earlier. Mosquera, their fullback was who scored.
Yeah.
And their attack looked pretty toothless other than that. So I'm not a huge fan of Portland's attack until we start seeing more from especially Evander, and maybe when Yimichara gets back.
Yeah.
So
just looking at the lineup, he has Chris Gloucester as one of his outside backs, one of his defenders. They bought his contract out. He's no longer with the team. He's a free agent at this point. So obviously he has Chicharito on his bench. So common sense says he's going to try to do the switcheroo for Chicharito and Gloucester to run the 3-4-3. Well, Chicharito's not going to be playing. He announced that on his Twitch stream while playing Call of Duty Warzone, which Greg Vanny wasn't very happy about, apparently. So the Gloucester thing is fine, right? Because he's going to be a guy that you're going to switcheroo. He's definitely not going to play, so that's okay. But maybe look to find a different striker. You could find another guy at 8.5 mil, or you could play with your lineup and find a striker that's maybe a little bit more expensive.
Or if you like the LA Galaxy attack, you've got Joveljic is a prime backup. He's 0.5 cheaper, and then you use that 0.5 somewhere else in your lineup.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, there's a lot of tinkering that you can do, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Brian, did we miss anything? Are we good, man?
No, man, I think we covered it. I think we did. I think we got it, man. This was a solid week. It was just great to respond and have segments after a week of games. It feels more and more real and more back and more and more.
We're not just speculating. We're actually talking about things that we're actually watching now, which is nice,
Yeah. Speculating, watching, getting things wrong, maybe getting 1 or 2 things right every once in a while, having the roller coaster ride that is an MLS season.
Oh yeah, and we got 33 more weeks of it. So folks, strap in. It's going to be a long ride here, dropping points. We're going to be dropping points left and right. So take our unsolicited advice with a grain of salt. Do your own research, folks, and listen responsibly. Brian, enjoy this weekend's matches, man, and we'll be back with you guys next week.
Sounds good. Peace out, y'all.